Could we talk a little bit about councillors and fundraising for third parties?
This is really confusing.
You know, for people who drive by this building, they might be saying, why do you need rules? Because they don't get the money. It goes to whoever they're raising the money for. So why do you need rules?
Well, part of it isn't just about the cash. It's also about the overall support of the councillor and the councillor's image or the councillor's perception in the community. So, for example, if you have third parties paying for the councillors to show up at lots of giant events with thousands of people, and those third parties are not required to disclose who they are, that can actually be very problematic because there are very specific rules around what you can accept from others. So, for example, if I had a land developer who wanted to donate to my campaign, well, that would have to be disclosed, and it's a limit of $5,000 per year. If that same land developer wanted to spend $60,000 having a huge event for me, and rent out the Saddle Dome, then under the current rules, that would fall in a really murky area. And so it's really trying to fix that.
What spurred this? Do you want to just elaborate on it?
It's actually Councillor Demong has been doing an event, a great event, every autumn to try and increase membership in the local community associations in his ward. And to his credit, he himself created rules to make sure that it was very ethically above board, but asked council to formalize those rules so that he was acting in a way that was very clearly legit. And so this is the result of that. This is where that came from. But in trying to make sure that what Councillor DeLong was doing was legit, which it is, the rules basically follow his process, we realized that if you have a devious mind, there are a lot of loopholes that exist now that still exist under the new policy. And so it's a matter of trying to fix it.
So other than, I guess, public profile in an event like that one, could he still do that in an election year, or say in September before an October election?
One of the recommendations that came today is to cut that off on nomination day, which is typically the second or third week of September. So for the actual campaign period, you couldn't do it. One of the questions that I have now that it's been referred is, should we push that back into the summer?
So why was it referred? What was wrong with what's proposed?
It was referred because as we talked about all those loopholes, the question really came up, can we fix all the loopholes with this piece of policy, with relatively small amendments, or is it going to require an overhaul? And if it requires an overhaul, should we pass this policy so we have something and fix it later? And it was just felt that we needed a few days to think about what the answer to that question was. So it's coming back to the next meeting.
Now, how would something like this, say, affect what you were trying to do in raising the funds to pay the legal bills? Would this involve that type of area?
That particular thing would not be covered by this because this is about events. And also, when council, without me, passed the indemnification policy, they basically said, look, if you have a frivolous lawsuit against you, the city will pay the legal fees. But if you think that's a bad use of public funds, as I do, then you, notwithstanding all the other rules around raising money, you can raise money to reimburse the city for those fees. I insisted on that being put in. But it's a bit of a notwithstanding clause, so it overrides this, but this would have been a good opportunity to fix that too.
How is that? When we talked in December, you said people were out in the community fundraising. Update?
People are out in the community fundraising, and I'll have an update. It's challenging for me because the ethics advisor has suggested that I can't be involved in it, and I'd really like to just know what's going on, but I understand the work is still going on.
Sorry, I was going to say, do you have a total you could give us or anything
I don't.
like that?
Sorry.
You do have I don't know if this happened or about to happen, that fundraiser, Loose and Loose fundraiser, something like that.
Next week.
Next week, could money raised from that go to the legal tab?
No. That is specifically a fundraiser for the 2017 campaign, and it follows under a different set of rules.
So what is it about these rules that you still think need to be adjusted, other than that time frame about the events? What else?
Time frame, I think that we need something that's broader than an event. I think we need to look at events that happen without third parties involved. So for example, I know there are some members of council who have big stampede events. And if you're going to have a big stampede event and you're soliciting donations for it, I think those donations have to be disclosed. and they should probably have to fit under campaign spending limits. So these are the sorts of things I think that we need to sort out. And then finally, just because I'm trying to think of this as deviously as possible, what is the definition of third party? So under the current definition, it could be a corporation. So I could actually be doing fundraising for Nenshi Developments Inc., which I think we don't want that. But I could also do fundraising for the Nenshi Family Charitable Foundation, which is a thing. And what are the limits of my ability to fundraise for that while I sit in this chair? So there's some big questions to sort out.
Is restricting it to nonprofits good enough?
Maybe. These are the sorts of things we got to think through.
Yeah, because I think of what typically council members have been involved with third-party fundraising. It's, the Boy Scouts, it's the community associations.
Oh, let me be very clear. I am not suggesting that any member of council has behaved in any inappropriate fashion as concerns this kind of fundraising. But understanding what's happened in other cities, I think it's important for us to just have the legal framework right.
Is it just about transparency?
Mostly, our general rules around this sort of thing are that disclosure is better than prescription. Because when you have really prescriptive rules over what you can and cannot do, people find ways around them. The famous example is that at the US Senate, all of the lavish meals are eaten standing up because you can't actually accept a meal, and meal is defined as sitting down as a meal. So you want to avoid that, and I think that voters deserve to see everything and make their own decision on whether it's appropriate. So I would never say to council members, you can't accept Flames playoff tickets, for example, but I would say you got to tell people who gave you the Flames playoff tickets. Okay, thank you.